Daniel left the engine running and said, 10 minutes, tops. 23 minutes later, I was still in the passenger seat with our anniversary cake warming on my lap. Bellweather House had a glass dining room facing the parking lot. Through it, I saw Daniel's mother standing at the head of a long table beneath a banner for the Hawthorne Wine Circle. A host checked his list. Vanessa Hale? Daniel's ex stepped forward. He pulled out the chair beside him, the chair with my name card half hidden beneath a fresh strip of paper. Vanessa sat down and lifted one of my smoky green wine glasses. My reserved seat was hers. I waited until Judith raised her glass for a toast. Then I got out of the car, carried the cake inside, and entered my husband's client dinner. Daniel saw me through the glass doors. For 1 second, I watched him decide what to do. Then he raised his glass with everyone else. The host tried to intercept me near the entrance. "Ma'am, this is a private event." "I know." I nodded toward the table. My glassware is private, too. Judith stopped speaking. She was wearing the pearl gray jacket I had picked up from her tailor 2 days earlier because she'd said parking downtown made her blood pressure become creative. Her wine club smile stayed in place, but everything behind it tightened. "Claire," she said, "what a surprise." It was for me, too. Daniel set down his glass. "What are you doing?" I looked at the linen banner, the tasting cards, the bottles lined up in brown paper sleeves. There were 14 people at the table, all of whom seemed very interested in the difference between examining a wine and examining a marriage. "I got tired of waiting in the car for your client." Vanessa turned toward Daniel. She still had the same glossy black hair I remembered from an old photograph Judith had once left on her piano. In the picture, Vanessa and Daniel were sunburned and beautiful, leaning against a railing in Napa with Judith between them. Now Vanessa looked mostly confused. "Claire," she said. "That's usually what Daniel calls me." Her eyes dropped to the place card. The white strip with her name had already started peeling at one corner. Beneath it, the C in Claire showed clearly. Judith gave a small laugh. "This is unfortunate." The host had followed me to the table, clutching his clipboard against his chest. He looked as if he would happily crawl into one of the wine bottles. Vanessa touched the paper strip. "Judith told me Claire canceled." I did not cancel. Daniel stood. "Can we do this outside?" "I've spent enough time outside." "Claire." He said my name softly, a warning disguised as tenderness. It was the tone he used when he thought I was about to become unreasonable and wanted credit for predicting it. The bakery box shifted in my arms. A spot of butter had darkened the bottom. "Which one is the client?" I asked. Daniel glanced at the other guests. A woman near the end of the table suddenly became fascinated by the tasting notes. Someone cleared his throat. Judith said, "Margaret's brother is involved with the Archer Hotel renovation." Margaret gave me a tight smile, tangentially. "And Vanessa has a relationship with the ownership group," Judith continued. "It's a networking dinner." "It's wine club," I said. "It can be 2 things." "Apparently, so can an anniversary." Daniel came around the table. "Keep your voice down." I hadn't raised it. That seemed to bother him more. He took my elbow, not hard enough to make a scene, just firmly enough to direct me toward the door. I stepped out of his grip. Vanessa put down the green glass. "I honestly didn't know," she said. Her lipstick had left a plum-colored crescent on the rim. Just below it was a tiny chip shaped like a thumbnail. I knew that chip. Daniel and I had found that glass at an estate sale in Petoskey during the 2nd year of our marriage. We had been broke enough to split a grilled cheese for lunch, but he'd bought the glass because I'd held it up to the sun and said it looked like something from the bottom of the sea. The set had grown one mismatched piece at a time. 12 glasses in 6 years. Judith had borrowed them the previous Sunday. "Crystal makes everything taste too formal," she'd said while wrapping them in my dish towels. "These have character." I reached past Vanessa and picked up the chipped glass. Judith's mouth tightened. "Claire, don't be theatrical." "I'm taking my glass home." Daniel lowered his voice. "You hate these dinners." "So you left me in the car." "I needed 10 minutes to talk to Vanessa." "And you couldn't say that?" I knew how you'd react. The old trick was so smooth I almost missed it. His lie had become evidence that the truth would have been impossible. Vanessa looked from him to me. Daniel, you said she knew we were meeting. This isn't a meeting, Judith said quickly. It's dinner among friends. Daniel ignored her. I said Claire knew we might need your help on Archer. No, you said she was supportive. I am standing right here, I said. The host made a small motion with his clipboard. For what it's worth, Mrs. Mercer, the change came through at 4:12 this afternoon. Daniel looked at him. The host looked immediately sorry he had a voice. From whom? I asked. There was a pause. Mr. Mercer called. I looked at Daniel. At 4:12, I had been at Crumb Fig choosing between a lemon cake and the pistachio one he liked. He had texted me while I was there. Get pistachio. Live dangerously. He had called Bellweather before I'd even paid for it. Judith straightened the cuff of her jacket. We can all choose to be gracious about a scheduling adjustment. A scheduling adjustment, I repeated. You weren't meant to be embarrassed. Where was I meant to be? Judith looked toward the windows. The running car was visible from every seat at the table. Daniel followed my eyes. I was coming back. That was when I understood he might genuinely believe it. He would have finished his dinner, returned to the car, kissed my cheek, and told me the meeting had gone long. He might even have complained about the food. If I asked why he smelled like the Bordeaux Judith had borrowed my aerator for, he would have said the client ordered wine. He could have lived comfortably inside that version of the night. I set the bakery box on top of my place card. Happy anniversary, I said. Claire, don't leave like this. How would you like me to leave? We'll talk in the car. No, you can talk in the car. I carried the green glass out through the dining room, past a rack of coats and a framed newspaper review praising Bellwether's atmosphere of cultivated intimacy. Outside, the engine was still running. Daniel had left the key fob in the cup holder. I drove home. My phone lit up before I reached the first traffic light. Daniel, please don't make this bigger than it is. Then Judith. You owe Vanessa an apology. At the next light, another message came from Daniel. Did you take the car? I laughed so suddenly I frightened myself. Our house sat on a narrow lot behind a low brick wall, with the conservatory visible over the roofline. At night, its black metal frame looked like the ribs of some huge animal. Daniel had fallen in love with it before he fell in love with the house. I had bought the place 2 years before we married. The conservatory had cracked panes, a dirt floor, and 3 rusted lawn chairs inside. Daniel drew plans on the back of a grocery receipt while we ate takeout on those chairs. He talked about heated concrete, sample walls, northern light. I talked about jasmine and a table big enough for dinner parties. We compromised by turning it into his studio and putting 1 jasmine plant near the door. Mercer Low Interiors occupied it without a lease. Daniel called the arrangement temporary for the first 4 years. After that, he called it ours. I parked in the driveway and went through the kitchen. The house was quiet except for the refrigerator clicking on. The spot on the bakery box had spread. When I opened it, the pistachio frosting had slid sideways, leaving one edge of the cake bare. I put the green glass in the sink. Then I took it back out because the basin was porcelain and Daniel had chipped 2 of the others that way. I washed Vanessa's lipstick from the rim with my thumb. At 11:30, headlights crossed the kitchen wall. A car door slammed and Daniel came in smelling like rain in somebody else's cab. He stopped when he saw the cake. You left it there? Yes. My mother brought it home. How thoughtful. He took off his coat. Can we have one conversation where you don't do that? Do what? Make every sentence sound like a knife. I folded the dish towel over the green glass. Daniel pulled out a chair but didn't sit. His tie was gone, and the top button of his shirt was open. He looked tired and handsome and deeply inconvenienced. It wasn't a date, he said. I didn't call it one. You're acting like you caught me sneaking into a hotel room with Vanessa. I caught you sneaking into wine club. Despite himself, his mouth twitched. Daniel could find humor in the ugliest room. It was one of the things I loved about him. It was also how he kept from having to stay in that room very long. "I handled it badly," he said. "You lied." I said client dinner because explaining the whole Vanessa Archer connection in the car would have taken longer than the actual conversation. You could have tried using her name. You would have said no. To waiting in the car while your mother put your ex in my seat, that's a strong possibility. He finally sat. "My mother planned the seating, not me. You called Bellweather at 4:12 to confirm Vanessa was coming, to replace me. There wasn't room." I stared at him. He rubbed both hands over his face. "That came out wrong." "No, I think that came out exactly right." He got up again and went to the refrigerator. He opened it, stared inside, then closed it without taking anything. "Archer could keep us busy for 18 months, he said. Maybe 2 years. Do you understand what that would do for the firm? I understand you thought I might interfere. Tonight required finesse. And I don't have any? That's not what I said. You didn't have to." He leaned against the counter. "Vanessa trusts me." Apparently, so did I. His expression changed then. Not much, but enough. For a second, the business case disappeared, and I saw that I had hurt him. The knowledge gave me no pleasure. It almost made things worse. He said, "That's cheap." So was leaving the engine running. I was gone half an hour. 41 minutes. "You timed me?" "There was a clock in the car, Daniel." He looked toward the sink. "Why did you take the glass out of her hand?" "It was mine." "It was a glass. Then why was your mother serving wine in it?" He exhaled. "This can't be about stemware." "It isn't." "Good, because you're talking like my mother broke into the house and stole the family silver. She asked to borrow those for wine club. She didn't mention my invitation would be pasted over. She didn't know how the evening would come together. That sounds like something you two decided I'd believe." Daniel pulled out his phone and checked the screen. I watched his thumb hover. "Is she asking how it's going?" I said. "It's Marcus." "Of course." He put the phone face down. "He wants to know whether Vanessa agreed to make the introduction." "Did she?" "Not after you walked in." There it was, the bill for my humiliation placed neatly between us. I folded the towel again, although it didn't need folding. "What do you want from me?" he asked. The truth would be a creative start. "I told you the truth. You told Vanessa I supported this. I said you understood the stakes. You told me there was a client waiting. There could have been. And you told the host to give away my chair." His jaw moved. "Answer one thing," I said. "When you looked through the window, did you see me in the car?" I was in the middle of a toast. That isn't an answer. The glass reflects the room at night. I waited. Daniel looked away first. "I didn't see you," he said. It should have helped. It didn't. He slept in the guest room. At 7 the next morning, I woke automatically to the soft chime of the Mercer low inbox on my phone. There were 6 new messages. A fabric vendor needed payment. Marcus wanted the revised Archer estimate. A client in Evanston had approved a change order but couldn't find the invoice. Daniel had marked all 3 urgent. For years, I answered those messages before I got out of bed. I sat with my thumb above the first one, while morning light moved slowly across Daniel's empty side of the mattress. Then another notification appeared. This one came from my personal calendar. Event declined. Hawthorne Wine Circle anniversary tasting. I opened the details. My original acceptance was still there, dated 3 weeks earlier. Below it was a cancellation sent from my account at 4/7 the previous afternoon, while I had been standing in the bakery deciding which cake my husband deserved. Daniel knew the password. He used my laptop whenever his battery died. I read the cancellation twice. "Regretfully, Claire can no longer attend. Please offer her seat to Vanessa Hale." The sentence sounded courteous, reasonable, and nothing like me. I returned to the Mercer low inbox. The unpaid invoice was still waiting. So were the estimate, the change order, and 4 years of invisible habits. I signed out. For 7 minutes, nothing happened. Then Daniel knocked once and opened the bedroom door without waiting. Did you change the company password? No. I can't get into the inbox. I signed out of it. He stood in the doorway wearing the shirt he'd slept in and a pair of gray sweatpants. There was a red crease down one side of his face from the guest room pillow. Why? Because I don't work for Mercer Low. Since when? I held up my phone. Since you used my calendar to cancel my seat. His eyes went to the screen, then back to me too quickly. I didn't use your calendar. Someone did, at 4/7 yesterday. That could have been a sync issue. A sync issue wrote 3 sentences and offered my chair to Vanessa. He came farther into the room. Let me see. I handed him the phone. He read the cancellation with the concentration of a man reviewing evidence against someone else. I sent Bellweather a note from your laptop, he said at last. I didn't realize it would show as coming from you. You signed my name. They needed confirmation. You signed my name. My mother called in a panic. Margaret had told her Vanessa might come, and there wasn't space unless someone dropped out. So you dropped me. You didn't know it was wine club. I had accepted the invitation. You accept everything my mother sends because you know she'll complain if you don't. That doesn't make the yes imaginary. He tossed my phone onto the bed. I was trying to manage a complicated situation. You created the complicated situation. Fine. I should have asked. And if I said no? He rubbed the crease on his cheek. Then I would have figured something out. You had 3 weeks to figure it out. We didn't know Vanessa was coming until yesterday. She was coming because you invited her. My mother invited her. You confirmed her seat. He looked toward the hallway as if hoping a better argument might walk past. I need to get into the inbox, he said. The Evanston change order has to go out this morning. Then send it. You know where the current form is. In the company drive. Which folder? I don't remember. That was a lie. I knew exactly where it was. Client files, active, Evanston, Naylor residence, change orders. I had made the folder structure after Daniel saved 3 separate estimates under the name Final 2. He knew I was lying. I watched him decide whether calling me on it would help. Claire, we can't operate like this. I agree. He crossed his arms. What does that mean? It means your mother's key comes back today. His posture changed. What does her key have to do with the inbox? Nothing. I'm done pretending unrelated things are the same just because you'd rather discuss the easier one. The key is for emergencies. Last month, she used it to leave 6 cases of wine in our dining room while we were at dinner. She saved us a trip. She went through my mail looking for the invoice. She thought the delivery slip might be there. Key. Today. Daniel stared at me for a moment, then nodded. Okay. The speed of his agreement unsettled me more than an argument would have. And the glasses, I said. I want the other 11 back. They're probably still at Bellweather. Then your mother can collect them. He left without answering. 10 minutes later, I heard the conservatory door slam. By 8:30, the house smelled like coffee, but I hadn't made any. Daniel kept a machine in the studio because he said the walk to the kitchen disrupted his flow. I had bought the machine, ordered its filters, and added the beans to our grocery subscription. Once I started noticing things, the house became crowded with them. The printer in the conservatory used toner from my office account. The firm's sample deliveries came to my address. Daniel's liability insurance renewal sat on my desk because he'd asked me to make sure it didn't get lost. I paid the cleaner extra for the studio bathroom and washed the hand towels after client meetings. When Marcus took prospects to lunch, I sorted the receipts by project because otherwise he left them in the glove compartment until the numbers faded. I opened a spreadsheet. I did not know what I intended to do with it. That felt almost luxurious. I listed the company expenses paid from my account: internet, cleaning, coffee, printer supplies, an online scheduling service, 2 software subscriptions Daniel had promised to transfer. Then I added the monthly storage unit we had canceled after moving his fabric books into my garage. The total was not ruinous. That made it worse. The firm had depended on amounts small enough to seem rude when mentioned separately, At 9:15, Marcus called. I watched his name flash twice before answering. Please tell me you remember where the Naylor change order template is. Good morning to you, too. Good morning. Daniel says you're holding the template hostage. It's in the company drive. I'm looking at the company drive. Client files, active, Evanston, Naylor residence, change orders. There was clicking on his end. Why are there 4 folders named Naylor? Because Daniel makes a new one every time he can't find the old one. Found it. Marcus breathed into the phone. You're a beautiful human being. You should learn the system. You are the system. He meant it as a compliment. I looked at the spreadsheet. No, I said, I'm not. His voice lost its joking edge. What's going on? Ask Daniel. I did. He said you had a disagreement at dinner. He left me in the parking lot while he had dinner with Vanessa. Marcus was silent for half a second too long. You knew she was going to be there, I said. I knew Judith was trying to get her there. Did you know I was supposed to sit beside Daniel? I didn't study the seating chart, Claire. You knew enough to make that distinction. He sighed. Archer is a big deal. We've spent 4 months trying to get in the room. There was no one from Archer in the room. Margaret Pell's brother advises the ownership group, Margaret said tangentially. That sounds like Margaret. Despite myself, I almost smiled. Marcus continued. Vanessa's agency is doing brand work for 2 of their investors. If she introduces us, we get a real presentation. That's how this business works. Does it usually require leaving your wife in a running car? No, that part was stupid. Stupid is forgetting the reservation. Daniel removed me from it. Marcus went quiet again. I didn't know that, he said. I believed him, which was inconvenient. I'm stepping away from the firm, I said. I'll send you both a transition note. Anything I've already prepared is in the drive. Stepping away for how long? I don't know. You can't do that this week. The words landed with such casual certainty that I pulled the phone away and looked at it. I can, I said. We have the Naylor install, 3 vendor balances, and a tax packet due Monday. Then you and Daniel have a busy week. Claire, come on, you're mad at him, I get it. Don't burn down the office because your husband acted like an idiot. It's my conservatory. I mean the business. I know what you mean. I ended the call before he could tell me again how essential I was to work nobody had thought to pay me for. At 10, Judith let herself into the kitchen. The alarm gave one polite chirp. She entered the code, turned it off, and called, Claire? I was sitting 6 feet away. She appeared carrying her purse, a paper bag, and the expression of someone arriving to administer difficult but necessary medicine. You're home, she said. You used your key. My hands were full. She set the bag on the counter. Cranberry scones. I looked at it. They're from Wren's, she added. You like those. I like my front door. Must we perform every line? You walked into my house the morning after you replaced me at your table. Judith removed her gloves, 1 finger at a time. I did not replace you. The host had my name on his list. The seating became fluid. You put Vanessa in my chair. There were 14 chairs, Claire. None of them were ordained. I almost admired her. Judith could take an object under your hand and turn it into a philosophical misunderstanding. Where are my glasses? Being washed. By whom? Bellweather's staff, presumably. You borrowed them, and I will return them. Today, with your key. Her eyes sharpened. Daniel told you to ask for it? No. Then I think that's a conversation for the 3 of us. It's my key. It's Daniel's home, too. Yes, and he agreed you should return it. That hurt her. She covered it by opening the scone bag and arranging the top as if presentation might improve the contents. Daniel is under extraordinary pressure, she said. Marcus told me they may not make payroll comfortably next quarter without another major contract. Then Daniel should have told me that. He may have wanted to protect you. He let me pay the firm's software bills. Judith's hand stopped. You've always been generous. I've always been convenient. That is an ugly way to describe helping your husband. Is it inaccurate? She pushed the bag toward me. Marriages go through seasons when one person carries more. I've been carrying things I wasn't allowed to know existed. You knew the firm was struggling. I didn't know it was one payroll away from trouble. Not one payroll. Marcus tends to dramatize. You just used his drama to defend Daniel. Her mouth compressed. For the first time since she arrived, Judith looked tired. Not old or fragile. Tired in the specific way of someone who had spent years running ahead of a disaster and calling it ambition. Daniel is very good at what he does, she said. I know. He needs people to see it before the numbers make them cautious. And Vanessa can make them see it? She can open a door. You already had a key to mine. Judith looked at me for a long moment. Then she reached into her purse and removed a brass key on a plain silver ring. She placed it on the counter. There, she said. I picked it up. It was warm from her hand. I wish you understood, she said, how humiliating last night was for Daniel. The surprise of it left me speechless. Judith mistook that for an opening. He had one chance to make a gracious impression, and you walked in carrying a cake like a prop. It was our anniversary cake. I know what it was. You sent him home with it. Leaving it on the table was childish. You invited his ex to take my place. I invited someone who could help him. You insist on turning usefulness into intimacy. I curled my fingers around the key. You don't even hear yourself. What I hear is a wife threatening her husband's business because her feelings were bruised. The scones smelled buttery and sweet between us. I opened the front door. Judith gathered her gloves. At the threshold, she paused. Keep the key if it makes you feel safer, but if Daniel fails because you withdrew help at the first painful moment, safety is going to be a cold comfort. After she left, I locked the door. Then I ate one of the scones standing at the counter. It was still warm and annoyingly excellent. I sent Daniel and Marcus a short email. I would organize the existing administrative files through Friday. After that, company correspondence, invoices, scheduling, and purchasing were their responsibility. Beginning the next billing cycle, I would stop paying business expenses from my personal account. They had 30 days to move the samples out of my garage and either sign a market rate agreement for the conservatory or find another space. Marcus replied first. This feels disproportionate. Daniel came into the house 12 minutes later. You're charging me rent? I'm giving the firm a choice. This is my studio. It's in my conservatory. We built it together. I paid for the renovation. With money we both agreed to spend. Before we were married. His face changed. I had never used the date against him. I hated the taste of doing it now. He sat at the kitchen table directly across from the untouched half of Judith's scone. Are you trying to end this? He asked. No. It feels like you are. I'm trying to find out what's left when I stop making everything easy. Daniel looked at the brass key beside my hand. She brought it back. Yes, I told you I would handle it. You did. The simple acknowledgement softened something in his face. I called a counselor, he said. There's an opening Thursday. I hadn't expected that. He reached across the table, palm up. After a moment, I put my hand in his. We can fix one bad night, he said. I need you to stop calling it one bad night. His fingers tightened around mine. Okay, he said. I can do that. For several seconds, I let myself believe him. Then my phone vibrated. The mortgage payment account had fallen below its usual balance. Daniel's monthly transfer, scheduled for that morning, had been canceled. I looked up. He released my hand. Until we figure out what belongs to the business and what belongs to us, he said, I think we should keep the money separate. You canceled it before you came in here. You sent the rent email before I came in. After you canceled it. He stood. I'm not going to finance my own eviction. The conservatory door closed behind him hard enough to shake the glass in the kitchen cabinets. My phone vibrated again. This time, it was a message request from Vanessa Hale. She had attached a photograph of a smoky green wine glass sitting on a folded hotel napkin. "Judith put this in my coat last night. I'm pretty sure it belongs to you." Below that, Vanessa had written one more line. "There are some things Daniel told me that I think you should know." I replied, "Coffee, public place, today." Vanessa sent the address of a cafe near her office and a time 2 hours later. Before I left, a Bellweather employee delivered a cardboard wine box holding 10 green glasses wrapped in paper. He asked me to sign a form saying they were returned in good condition. "They're wet," I said. "They just came out of the dishwasher. One had a cloudy streak down its bowl, another had a fresh nick in the base." I signed only for the number received, then put them in the dining room cabinet. The chipped glass from the night before stayed on the kitchen windowsill. I had started to like seeing it there by itself. Vanessa was seated in the back of the cafe with my 11th glass on the table between us. She had wrapped it in the hotel napkin and placed the whole thing inside a canvas grocery bag. When I sat, she pushed the bag toward me. "I felt ridiculous carrying that on the train," she said, "like I'd stolen a goblet from a medieval banquet." Judith would prefer the word borrowed. I'm pretty sure Judith prefers whichever word requires the least paperwork. I laughed before I could stop myself. Vanessa looked relieved, but only for a moment. "I'm sorry about last night." "Did you know it was my seat?" "No, I knew you were originally invited. Judith said you'd decided not to come because wine club wasn't your thing." "And Daniel?" "He said you supported him talking to me about Archer." She took out her phone but kept it face down beneath her hand. "I need to be clear before I show you anything. I wasn't trying to restart something with your husband." "I didn't think you were." "You should probably hear the evidence before being generous." "I'm not being generous. I watched your face when I walked in." Vanessa nodded once. "Daniel and I were together for 5 years, she said. "Judith loved me, or she loved being able to tell people where my family had a vacation house. It was hard to separate those things with her. She once introduced me as the woman who helped Daniel stabilize. That sounds like her." "What did he tell you?" Vanessa turned over the phone. The first messages were ordinary. Daniel congratulated her on a campaign. Vanessa asked about Marcus. Daniel mentioned Archer and said he would value 15 minutes of her time. Then the language changed. "Claire understands the stakes," one message said. "We're basically separated in everything except the logistics right now." I read it twice. "What date was this?" 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, Daniel and I had spent a Sunday repainting the pantry. He had put a blue handprint on the back of my jeans, and I had chased him through the kitchen with the roller. That night, we ate pizza on the floor because the shelves were drying. I scrolled. Vanessa had replied, "I don't want to get in the middle of anything." Daniel, "There's nothing to get in the middle of. Claire has her world, and I have mine. She's supportive of us reconnecting professionally." Farther down, Judith had joined the persuasion from her own number. "Claire will be relieved not to attend. She finds our wine evenings exhausting." "I never said that," I murmured. I guessed. "You still went." Vanessa sat back. "Yes." The directness surprised me. "I wanted the Archer work," she said. "My agency has been trying to get a larger hospitality account. Daniel said if Mercer Lowe got the interiors, he'd recommend us for the brand launch. I told myself it was business. I also told myself that if your marriage was ending, that wasn't my responsibility." "Was there anything romantic?" "Not for me." "That wasn't my question." She studied my face. "He reminded me about Napa, about how Judith still had the picture on her piano. He said it was funny how life curved back around. I looked out the window. A delivery driver was trying to balance 4 drink trays on the hood of his car. Did you answer?" I changed the subject to Archer. "Thank you for telling me." "I'm not doing it for free," she said. I looked back at her. I don't mean money. I mean, I want something from this. I don't want Daniel telling people I chased him into a bad marriage, and I don't want Judith using my name to make her wine club look connected. If they ask, I'm going to tell the truth. That seems fair. You're calmer than I expected. I've had practice this week. She gave me a tired smile. It's Tuesday. I put her glass into the bag. When I stood, Vanessa said, Claire, Daniel used to do this when we were together. Have dinner with his wife? Tell different people the version that kept each of them useful. He doesn't think of it as lying. He thinks he's protecting the future from whoever might ruin it in the present. Daniel was waiting in the kitchen when I returned. The counselor's appointment card lay on the table beside Judith's key. Where were you? With Vanessa. His face emptied. What did she say? I set the canvas bag down. That we're separated in everything but logistics. Daniel closed his eyes. She showed me the messages. That line was about the firm. You didn't mention the firm. She was worried about interfering. So you reassured her by saying our marriage barely existed. I was trying to get a meeting. You used our marriage as a coupon. He paced toward the refrigerator, stopped, and turned back. I didn't say I wanted to be with her. You told her there was nothing to get in the middle of, because there wasn't. There was me. You're making the wording more important than the intent. The wording was the intent. You needed her to believe I didn't matter. He dragged out a chair and sat. I'm scared, Claire. It was so quiet I nearly missed it. Of what? Losing the firm. Having Marcus find out I've been telling him the next contract will fix things for 3 years. Watching you carry expenses and knowing every time I asked you to stop, you'd see how bad it was. I asked. I know. You told me business was uneven. It is uneven. There's just more valley than hill right now. He smiled weakly at his own line. I didn't. Why cancel the mortgage transfer? Because your email felt like a notice from a landlord. It was a notice to the company. It's hard to separate the company from me. That's the problem. He looked at the key. I'll transfer half the fixed expenses, he said. Mortgage, utilities, insurance. We'll list them. No more random amount based on what I think I can manage. It was less than he had been contributing, but it was honest enough to frighten both of us. And counseling? I asked. Thursday. And your mother does not enter this house unless I invite her. His jaw tightened. Fine. Say it without sounding like I asked you to exile her to sea. My mother does not come into the house unless you invite her. And no promises involving the conservatory. I won't make any new promises. The word new sat between us. What have you already promised? Daniel looked toward the glass structure beyond the kitchen window. Judith mentioned hosting an Archer preview there if Vanessa made the introduction. You said yes? I said it could be a possibility. That means yes to Judith. We've held events there before. I held events there. I shopped, cleaned, cooked, rearranged the house, and put it back afterward. It would be one night. No. Claire. No. His fear vanished behind anger. You say you want honesty, and then when I'm honest, you punish me with whatever information I give you. I'm not punishing you, I'm refusing the room. That room could save the company. Then you built your company around a room you don't control. He stared at me. The sentence had been cruel. It had also been true long before I said it. Our counseling session lasted 50 minutes and left both of us feeling as if we had paid to carry furniture upstairs. Daniel described my email as a sudden eviction. I described 6 years of unpaid work. He said I had never asked to be paid. I said he had never asked whether I wanted a job. The counselor, Dr. Avery, asked Daniel why Judith's disappointment felt more dangerous to him than mine. He looked genuinely baffled. My mother remembers everything, he said. So does Claire, Dr. Avery replied. Claire doesn't use it later. I almost laughed. There it was, the reward for being safe. I could be wounded because I did not weaponize the wound quickly enough. On Friday, the temporary bookkeeper Daniel hired emailed me. "Hi Claire, can you confirm whether the accrued administrative amounts under C. Mercer were paid directly or treated as an owner contribution?" I called her. She introduced herself as Elena Wright and apologized 3 times for bothering me. Then she shared the project costing sheet Marcus used for internal estimates. My initials appeared beside dozens of tasks: billing, vendor coordination, client scheduling, procurement follow-up. Each hour carried a dollar value. The firm had been including my labor and project costs so they could measure profitability. "Where do the payments show?" Elena asked. "They don't." She went quiet. "I see. How much has been accrued? I'm not comfortable giving a total until I understand how they categorized it. I'm not asking you to accuse anyone of anything. I just want the sheet." "I'll tell Daniel and Marcus you requested it." Marcus called 20 minutes later. "You went through the books?" "The bookkeeper contacted me. Those numbers are internal. My name is on them. It's not a payable account. It's an allocation." "You knew my hours had value when you were pricing your work. Of course your time has value. You just didn't think it had a bill." "That is not fair." "Neither was calling me the system." He exhaled sharply. "I didn't know Daniel was canceling your plans or saying you were separated. I'm sorry about that. But the firm can't absorb a domestic war. Then stop storing the ammunition in my garage." That afternoon, I met Marisol Vega in the conservatory. She owned the floral studio that had handled 2 Mercer Low installations. For years, she had asked me to call if we ever wanted to rent the conservatory for workshops. She walked the perimeter with a tape measure, admiring the northern light and frowning at the towers of Daniel's sample books. "I can work around some of this," she said. "Not all. They have 30 days. Daniel knows?" "Yes." "Does Daniel agree?" "No." Marisol gave me a sideways look. "I'm not getting between married people. You'd be signing an agreement with me for space I own. I'm getting a little between married people." She proposed 2 weekend workshops and a small floral dinner. The income would cover most of the amount Daniel had removed from our household budget. I told her I needed a few days. On Monday, an ivory envelope arrived addressed to Mr. and Mrs. Daniel Mercer. Inside was an invitation embossed with a line drawing of my conservatory. "The Hawthorne Wine Circle Private Archer Hospitality. Preview hosted by Judith Mercer at the Mercer Glass House." I carried it outside. Daniel and Marcus were standing over a sample table. Marcus saw the invitation and stopped talking. "You sent these?" I asked. Daniel looked at Marcus. Marcus said, "Judith handled the list." I said no. Daniel lowered his voice. "The invitation was already at the printer. You said there were no new promises." "It wasn't new. The event is in 2 weeks. Vanessa hasn't formally withdrawn the introduction. She will. You don't know that. I met her." Marcus stared at Daniel. "You told me Vanessa was still in." "She hasn't said she's out." "She showed me your messages," I said. Daniel's face hardened. "You had no right to bring our private conversations into the business." Marcus looked between us. "What private conversations?" I set the invitation on the sample table. "The preview cannot happen here." That evening, I emailed Judith, Daniel, Marcus, and the address printed on the invitation. I stated that the conservatory was unavailable and had never been reserved. I offered Bellweather's event coordinator as an alternate contact. Judith replied to me alone. "You have made your position painfully clear." 3 days later, I came home to find the alarm disarmed and the dining room cabinet open. 11 green glasses were gone. So were 2 chairs, the linen tablecloth, and 3 boxes of presentation materials from the conservatory. I called Daniel. He arrived 20 minutes later and stood in the dining room staring at the empty shelves. "My mother needed the glasses for the alternate venue," he said. "She came into my house. She picked up company property. The chairs are mine, the linens are mine, the glasses are mine. I gave her a key because the sample boxes were too heavy for her to move alone. You gave her another key. It was for one afternoon. You sat in counseling and agreed she would not enter. She wasn't here socially. I looked at him, waiting for the absurdity to reach him. It didn't. "The chipped glass is still on the windowsill," he said, as if he had found the merciful part. That was when I understood the problem had never been Judith's key. It was Daniel standing beside every locked door, ready to open it for her. "I need you to leave," I said. Daniel blinked. "Leave the room?" "The house." His face hardened. "This is my home." "You just helped your mother take things from it after promising she wouldn't enter." "I helped her retrieve materials for an event you're trying to ruin. 2 dining chairs are not presentation materials." She needed a consistent look. Of course she did. I picked up the chipped glass from the windowsill and held it against my chest. "I'm asking you to stay somewhere else tonight. We can arrange times for you to collect your clothes and decide what happens next." "You've been waiting to say that." "I've been doing everything possible not to say it." Daniel looked around the dining room. 1 chair from the table and 1 from the wall were gone, leaving pale rectangles on the wood floor where their legs had protected it from the sun. "My mother will bring everything back." "That isn't the point." "It's always the point until I solve it. Then you find a new point." He took his phone from his pocket. "Are you calling her?" "I need somewhere to sleep." The words hurt even after I'd asked him to go. He packed a suitcase in the bedroom while I sat at the kitchen table listening to drawers open and close overhead. When he came down, he had the garment bag from our wedding suit folded over one arm. At the door, he set his house key on the console. "I'll get the other one from my mother," he said. "You mean the one you gave her after she returned hers?" "It's my copy." "It stopped being your copy when you handed it to someone I had asked you to keep out." He opened the door. "Do you even want counseling anymore?" "I wanted you to protect one boundary, and I wanted you not to destroy my company. Then we both know what the other chose." He left without slamming the door. That almost undid me. The following morning, Marcus arrived carrying a leather portfolio and 2 coffees. He set one on the kitchen counter. "Daniel says you've separated." Daniel says a lot of things when he needs a room arranged around him. Marcus accepted that. "I need to show you something." He opened the portfolio to the Archer proposal. I recognized the photographs immediately. Daniel had taken them during a dinner I hosted the previous fall. The conservatory glowed with candles, the jasmine climbing 1 black metal support. My table, my linens, my green glasses. Across the top of the page were the words, "Immersive brand events at the Mercer Glass House." The next page offered Archer's ownership group 4 seasonal launch dinners, press tastings, and private design reviews in Mercer Lowe's signature glass-walled venue. "He put this in the proposal?" I asked. 2 months ago. Did you know?" "I thought you and Daniel had agreed." "Why would you think that?" "Because he said, Claire loves the idea." I closed the portfolio. Marcus stared at his coffee. "I should have asked you." "Yes. He makes things sound settled." "Yes." "I'm starting to understand that." He took out a legal pad. "I need to know what belongs to the firm." We walked through the conservatory together. I identified the sample cabinets Daniel and Marcus had purchased, the drafting table from their first office, the company printer, the fabric books, the tile displays. The work table belonged to me. So did the pendant lights, the shelving attached to the brick wall, the rugs, the chairs, and every object shown in the proposal photographs except 2 vases. Marcus wrote it all down. When we reached the garage, he stared at the stacks of samples filling 1 entire side. "We can't move this in 30 days. You have 23 left." Daniel told me the notice wasn't serious. He tells people what he needs them to believe. Marcus flinched, perhaps because he had said versions of the same thing about clients for years and called it optimism. "Are you coming to the preview?" he asked. "I canceled the venue." "It's at Bellweather now. Judith paid the rush fee." "Then why would I come?" "Because Daniel hasn't removed the Glasshouse program from the pitch. He says Archer will sign first, and then you'll agree once there's money attached." I looked through the conservatory panes at the kitchen window, where I had watched Daniel leave for work hundreds of mornings. What do you think? I think if we promise a venue we don't control, every number after that is fiction. That was not loyalty to me. It was Marcus protecting himself. It was still the first honest thing anyone at Mercer Low had done in days. I'll come, I said, but I'm not helping with the presentation. I wouldn't ask. You called me the system last week. He rubbed the back of his neck. I'm trying to become less stupid at a survivable pace. Marisol signed the rental agreement that afternoon. Her first event would be the same night as the Archer preview, a floral dinner for 12 local designers. She paid a deposit, sent an insurance certificate, and asked before moving a single vase into the conservatory. The simplicity of it felt almost extravagant. Daniel found out when Marcus scheduled movers for the sample boxes. He called me from Judith's house. You rented the studio out from under us? I rented my conservatory after giving the firm notice. We still have 3 weeks. The boxes are being stored. Your drafting table can stay through the end of the month. You chose the night of the preview deliberately. Marisol chose it because her clients were available. You're going to hold a party while we fight for our lives. It's a paid dinner. That's worse. Only if you think money becomes vulgar when I earn it. He went quiet. Claire, if Archer happens, everything changes. You said that about Naylor and Barrington and the restaurant in Oak Park. This is bigger. It always is. Bellweather put the Archer group in the same glass dining room. Judith stood at the head of the table in a dark green dress, surrounded by the 11 wine glasses she had taken from my cabinet. My dining chairs had been placed at either end as host chairs. The linen covered the center of the table. Daniel saw me enter before the toast this time. He did not raise his glass. What is she doing here? Judith asked Marcus. I asked her to come, he said. Daniel stepped away from the Archer Development Director, Lena Ortiz, and met me near the door. This is private. So was my house. Please don't do this here. Where should I do it? The car? Pain crossed his face, followed quickly by anger. I apologized. You explained. I went to counseling. I moved out. I transferred the household money. And then you gave your mother a new key and promised my property to a client. I made one mistake after 6 years of marriage. You made the same choice every time it was offered. Lena approached us carrying a folder. Mrs. Mercer? Claire is fine. I'm Lena Ortiz. I understand you own the Glasshouse venue. I own the conservatory shown in the proposal. Daniel said, the property arrangements are being renegotiated. No, I said, they aren't. I handed Lena a copy of the inventory Marcus and I had made, along with my earlier email declining the event. The conservatory is not available for this project. The furnishings in those photographs are not company property, and I have never authorized Mercer Low to offer events there. Judith appeared beside Daniel. This is a marital dispute, she told Lena. Claire is understandably emotional, but it has nothing to do with the quality of Daniel's work. Lena looked at the pages, then at the green glasses on the table. Were we invited here to evaluate a venue that isn't available? The venue can be secured, Daniel said. How? He looked at me. That was his plan. Even then, with everyone waiting, he believed the weight of the room might force me to rescue him. It can't, I said. Vanessa came through the glass doors behind us. Judith brightened with visible relief. Good. Now we can make the introductions and move forward. Vanessa kept her coat on. I'm not making the introduction. Daniel stared at her. You said you would consider it. I considered it. This firm is good enough for Archer. That isn't the only question. Judith's voice sharpened. Vanessa, we have all made an enormous effort to arrange this. You told me Claire supported the meeting. Daniel told me they were separated. Then you put one of her glasses in my coat like a party favor. It was a gesture. It was stolen. Judith recoiled from the word. Daniel looked toward Marcus. Say something. Marcus closed the proposal portfolio. We need to withdraw this version, he said. The venue, event staffing, and administrative overhead aren't ours to offer. I told Lena that before tonight. You told her? I corrected the record. Daniel's face went pale. You went behind my back. I went in front of a client before you could promise something else. Lena tucked the inventory into her folder. We'll suspend the review, she said. If there's a revised proposal from a stable operating team, my office can decide whether to consider it. It was polite language for no. Judith caught my arm as Lena turned away. You got what you wanted. I looked down at her hand until she released me. What do you think I wanted? To prove we can't function without you. No, I stopped functioning for you. Behind her, a server was pouring wine into my glasses. I want the chairs, linens, and glassware returned tomorrow, I said. The sample boxes can go to the storage address Marcus arranged. Judith's mouth trembled. For the first time, I saw what she had been protecting, not merely Daniel's business, her own belief that enough polish, enough useful people, and the right table could keep failure from becoming visible. I was trying to help my son, she said. You taught him help means taking whatever the other person won't surrender. Daniel stepped between us. Don't speak to her like that. The instinct was immediate. Whatever had just happened to his company, he still knew whose pain required his defense. I nodded. That was the answer I had come for. Outside Bellweather, the night air smelled like wet pavement. Across town, Marisol's dinner was beginning under the conservatory lights. I opened the photograph she had sent me. Flowers spread across my work table, 12 place settings she had rented herself, the jasmine reflected in every pane. I drove home. The Archer job disappeared quietly. Lena's office requested a revised proposal, but Marcus declined to submit one with Daniel. Within a month, he left Mercer low, taking the clients whose contracts named him directly and renting a small office above a flooring showroom. Daniel kept the company name. He moved into a shared workspace, hired Elena for 6 hours a week, and discovered that printers, storage, bookkeeping, coffee, and meeting rooms all sent invoices. Judith paid Bellweather's rush fee and the catering minimum for the preview. She stopped hosting Wine Club for a while. When she resumed, the invitations listed the venue before the guests. The green glasses came back in the same cardboard wine box. 2 had chipped rims. 1 stem had snapped and been wrapped separately in a cocktail napkin. I left them in the box. Daniel returned for the last of his sample books on a cold Sunday afternoon. We had begun working through the separation with a mediator. The conversations were slow, practical, and more honest than our final year of marriage. He stood in the empty conservatory holding the estate sale glass with the thumbnail chip. I had left it on the windowsill. Remember Petoskey? He asked. Yes. We spent $12 on this when we had $40 until payday. You said we'd eat noodles. We did. He set the glass down carefully. Was it worth it? What? All of this, ending us over a dinner. I looked through the panes toward the driveway where he had once left me waiting. It wasn't the dinner. The glasses, then. The key. It was you looking through that window, seeing me in the car, and raising your glass anyway. He swallowed. I did see you, he said. I know. After he left, I locked the conservatory and carried the chipped glass into the kitchen. At Marisol's next dinner, the room filled with candlelight and voices. I sat at the end of my own table beneath the jasmine, drinking from the 1 green glass I had kept. This time, my name was on the agreement, my key was in my pocket, and the seat was mine.